must follow the law. The law says...
Glorious. Is it a lawsuit? Probably. Why not?
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Buckle Up, It's the Law with attorney Larry Forman. Folks, today we are going to talk about Bryan Kohberger, and unfortunately this may be the first and last video that I will make about Bryan Kohberger. Bryan Kohberger has been on my to-do list, folks, for months. Months, I tell you. It was last summer when I first learned of the proceedings going on in that case, and I was getting ready to start doing, and there were hearings earlier this year, and there was like a motion for this and a motion for that, and people were talking about the defense and the prosecution and the judge, and I was like, okay, as soon as Karen Reed is over, I am going to start on Bryan Kohberger, and lo and behold, we will not have a single trial video from Bryan Kohberger. Why? Because Bryan pled guilty. Was it the right decision? Was it the wrong decision? Well, watch this video to find out. Who is Bryan Kohberger? And why are we talking about this? For those of you who may be unfamiliar, or maybe unfamiliar with the facts of the case, allow me to give you the full backstory. So buckle up. It's going to be an interesting one. Bryan Kohberger was a former criminology PhD student. He was charged on November 13th, 2022 with the murder by stabbing to death 4 Idaho students. Ethan Chapin, age 20, Zaina Kernodle, age 20, Madison Mogan, age 21, and Kaylee Goncalves, age 21. Where did he do this? It was an off-campus rental home in Moscow, Idaho, a party house. The case garnered significant attention due to the brutal nature of the killings. He used a knife, for God's sake, on incapacitated individuals who were heavily under the influence. There was a lack of an apparent motive. There were complex legal proceedings that have followed. And I want to kind of go back and break it all down for you all. On November 13, 2022, the 4 students were found dead in a house near the University of Idaho campus. The killings occurred in the early morning hours, with the victims stabbed multiple times. 2 other roommates in the home survived, one of whom reported seeing a masked male intruder with bushy eyebrows leaving the scene. According to court documents, the case initially baffled investigators as no clear suspect emerged for weeks, heightening fear in the small college town of Moscow, Idaho. Now, Kohberger, back then he was 28, and a graduate student at Washington State University in nearby Pullman, Washington, became a suspect after a month-long investigation. The key evidence included, first, DNA evidence. There was a tan leather Ka bar knife sheath that was found next to Mogan's body and bore a single source of male DNA, which was a statistical match to Kohberger. Additional DNA from trash at his family's Pennsylvania home linked him to the crime scene as well. The cell phone data. Kohberger's phone connected to a cell tower near the victim's home 23 times over 4 months. He was stalking them, more than likely, including during the early morning of the murder when it was disconnected from the network for 2 hours, 2:47 a.m. to 4:48 a.m., consistent with the crime's timeline. The genius literally turned his phone off and then back on again. So before the crime, turned it off. After the crime, turned it back on, like it's going to... He literally just incriminated himself even further there. But hey, who am I to judge? There's a theory that Bryan Kohberger tried to be like the next Leopold and Loeb. If you're not familiar with that tale, these are 2 Harvard boys. Clarence Darrow represented them about, it feels like 100 years ago, but I think it's closer to about 80 or 90 years ago. And they tried to commit the perfect crime, but they got caught because one of the boys lost his glasses by the train tracks and they were found. And it was a custom tailor-made glasses that could only be, it only led to about, that narrowed it down to about 3 suspects. And I forget if it was Leopold and Loeb who needed the prescription, but that's how they were captured. Vehicle evidence. A white Hyundai Elantra, similar to the one Kohberger drove, was captured on security footage near the crime scene before and after the murders. And some other items. Police recovered a knife, a Glock pistol, a black glove, a black hat, and a black face mask from Kohberger's family home in Pennsylvania. Kohberger was arrested on New Year's Eve, December 30th, 2022, at his parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, and extradited to Idaho for prosecution. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. Prosecutors announced their intent to seek the death penalty if he is convicted, given the severity of the crimes. Now, legal proceedings and the pretrial developments leading up to today, which is July 2nd, the day of the plea. We'll talk about that in a moment. This case has faced numerous delays and legal complexities, extending the pretrial phase over 2.5 years. Those developments include Kohberger's silence during his May 2023 arraignment, prompting the judge to enter a not guilty plea on his behalf. It set the stage for a contentious legal battle, with the defense challenging much of the prosecution's evidence. In September of 2024, there was a motion to change venue. Due to the extensive media coverage, the trial was moved from Lada County to Boise, Ada County, over 300 miles away to ensure an impartial jury. The decision followed defense argument that publicity, including leaks and a Dateline NBC special, risked tainting the jury pool. The defense team, led by attorney Ann Taylor, that's a hell of a name, pursued several strategies. First, they were challenging the death penalty itself. The defense argued that Kohberger's autism spectrum diagnosis should preclude the death penalty, citing it as a mitigating factor. These motions were unsuccessful. Number 2, suppressing the evidence. The defense sought to exclude evidence like Kohberger's Amazon purchase of the knife, his 12-page master's essay on handling stabbing crime scenes, and cell phone data. Judge Stephen Hippler ruled most evidence admissible, citing its relevance. So that failed. Number 3, alternative perpetrators. Very similar to the Karen Reed case in this regard, but obviously there's so much more evidence pointing to Kohberger, whereas in the Karen Reed case, it was 100% innocent woman with no evidence whatsoever of committing a crime. The defense proposed 4 alternative suspects with social connections to the victims, but Judge Hippler rejected the theory in June 2025, just less than a month ago, calling the evidence entirely irrelevant and speculative, and the proposed suspects provided DNA and fingerprints that did not match the crime scene. Number 4, and this is by far my favorite, alibi defense. The defense claimed that Kohberger was out driving alone on the night of the murders, looking at the stars. He was stargazing. Listen, far be it from me. I love gazing at stars. I saw a meteor shower in Switzerland when I was there just a couple of weeks ago. It was one of the most amazing things I have ever seen. I've never seen a live meteor shower, at least not that I can remember. And it's like shooting stars in the sky. It's glorious. It's amazing. So if you plan for that, you make plans, you go, I mean, you have an alibi, sure. But this is 2022 when this happened, folks. Everybody's got a cell phone and a computer. Nobody goes out just driving around looking at the frickin' stars, okay? That's not an alibi. If this is your only alibi, you're going to get convicted, bud. I said this before, I'm going to say it again. Just now you get to hear it from me on video. And to add insult to injury, there wasn't a single witness to corroborate his whereabouts. Oh, and number 5, trial delays. There were multiple motions made by Ann Taylor to delay the trial. She cited the need to review vast amounts of evidence and the impact of media leaks. Everything was denied, and the trial was set for August 11th. Jury selection was to begin August the 4th, a month from now. Now, there were other issues in the case. There were media leaks and a gag order. A sweeping gag order restricted public statements by prosecutors, defense attorneys, and victims' families to prevent prejudicing the case. However, leaks complicated proceedings. Notably, a May 2025 Dateline NBC episode revealing Kohberger's internet searches, e.g. for Ted Bundy and terms like drugged and passed out. Judge Hippler ordered both sides to preserve records to identify the leaker and threatening contempt charges on the person who leaked and violated the gag order. There were also witness issues. The defense summoned witnesses from Kohberger's Pennsylvania past, including a boxing gym owner, a former professor, a school advisor, and a jail guard from his brief detention in Monroe County. Some resisted testifying, leading to hearings in Pennsylvania to compel their appearance. A DoorDash driver who delivered food to the home early on November 13, 2022, claimed in a September 2024 police video to have seen Kohberger at the scene. She repeated this claim multiple times, stating she would testify against him. Her identity remains protected, and it's unclear if she will testify. Now we know she will never testify, but prosecutors planned on using her delivery to establish a timeline. And finally, we come to the frustration of the victims' families, as was established yesterday in a post by one of the murder victims. The families of the victims, particularly the Gonkalves family, expressed frustration with the slow pace of the case, describing it as a hamster wheel of motions, hearings, and delayed decisions. And they also stated, as of yesterday, July 1st, that they are extremely frustrated or maybe it was June 30th, that they're extremely frustrated that the prosecution is allowing Kohberger to take life without parole, 4 consecutive life sentences, and they're not getting the death penalty, which I will give my 2 cents in just a moment. They criticize the lack of transparency and the emotional toll of prolonged proceedings. They also are taking umbrage, and I cannot imagine what they're going through. They've lost their child in a horrific murder. But will killing Kohberger by the state give them solace and comfort? Historically, it has been shown, data has shown, that when murderers were executed, and usually the victims' families are permitted to come to the execution, and they would watch the killer of their loved one or their friend or whomever get executed, that would not provide any type of closure or relief. From a psychological perspective, it makes sense because now there are 2 lives that were taken. The perpetrator killing the victim, and now the state killing the perpetrator. It's Hammurabi's code, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You kill me, I kill you, you know. And I don't mean the same person, obviously that would be ridiculous, but you kill person A, and now the state will execute the perpetrator who killed person A. Now you have 2 dead bodies. There's also the argument of financial investment, that it is a lot cheaper to keep a person on life without parole than it is to execute them. There are statistics how much it costs, all the appeals, and you're on death row for 20 years before you're actually executed. The days are gone where you go from sentenced to death and then executed the following Tuesday, sentenced to death on a Wednesday, executed the following Tuesday. That was about 100 years ago when that practice stopped. So not even talking about the financial burden on the state, the simple fact that, and far be it from me, because I cannot put myself in their shoes. I have no frame of reference, and I hope I never do, to experience what they have experienced, losing their child, all 4 families losing their child. I just don't know if killing Kohberger would have provided that vindication that they're seeking. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it would have. Maybe there are some families out there that wanted him dead and were just praying for his execution. But I just don't think it's going to solve their grief problem. I think it's only going to add to it. And they think it's going to provide relief. But the minute it actually happens and he's executed, I don't know. Maybe he's going to get what's coming to him in prison. I don't think he's going to have a very easy sentence, folks. He's going to spend the rest of his life there. I mean, even bringing up Leopold and Loeb again, one of them got killed in prison. He got shanked by a fellow inmate. The other one was able to get out after being, I think, either paroled out or maybe they served their, because, life in imprisonment doesn't mean life. It's like 20 years plus. And after you serve your 20 years, essentially, you become eligible for parole in some jurisdictions. Some states, it's different. Some states, it's 40. Some states, again, life without parole means no parole. But Leopold and Loeb were in a different scenario, and they got a different sentence. One of them was out, and he died out of custody. He did not die in prison. Kohberger will die in prison, 100%. Plea deal and current status. This is recent. This is about as recent as the last few days. On June 30th, 2025, just weeks before the trial was set to begin, Kohberger's defense team approached prosecutors with a plea offer, leading to a significant development. There was a plea agreement, which was entered today, July 2nd, 2025. Kohberger agreed to plead guilty to all 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary, avoiding the death penalty. Now, under the deal, he is going to receive 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole for the murders, plus up to 10 years for the burglary charge. He also waived his right to an appeal and agreed to restitution for the victims' families. Prosecutors informed the victims' families via a letter describing the deal as a means to ensure Kohberger's conviction and lifelong imprisonment without subjecting families to prolonged appeals. The plea hearing occurred today at the Ada County Courthouse in Boise, where Kohberger formally pleaded guilty. And here, folks, I want to show you a clip. It's about 90-second clip of Kohberger, in his own words, accepting the plea in open court and admitting to the killing of the Idaho 4. Here it is.
Did you, on November 13th, 2022, enter the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder?
Yes.
Did you, on November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
Did you, on or about that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Kaylee Gonzalez, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
And did you, on that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
As you can see, folks, no remorse, no emotion, no feelings whatsoever by this man. It is disgusting. It is appalling. It is inhumane. It is beyond words. He is a disturbed individual. He is admitting to these murders like he's ordering a breakfast sandwich from McDonald's. He's got the same tone, the same cadence, the same rhythm, the same pitch. It makes the skin crawl to think that this man once walked among us. It's terrifying. And I don't know. I hope this brings the families closure. I don't know if it will or not. Again, I repeat, I'm going to sound like a broken record. I don't think execution is the answer. There are some people that absolutely should have and have been executed, and rightfully so. But there were a lot of executions, and I'm sure you've heard of these. This is pre-DNA, where people have been executed and posthumously exonerated. It's terrifying to even think about. But the system is not perfect. Race comes into play, sex comes into play, gender roles, gender identities, and so on and so forth. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. I have never been pro-death penalty. Again, with some exceptions, like I said, me personally. I believe when used sparingly and correctly on the right types of cases, like serial killers, I could get behind it. You know, if there's proof, if there's evidence, even though it's still like, but eye for an eye, you killed my daughter or, 4 kids, and you deserve to die for that. Maybe. But is it going to provide, because they're not seeking, I think the families wanted Kohberger to be sentenced to death and to be killed by the state so that they can have retribution, relief, vengeance. And that's not the correct path. I don't think that is the solution. I think that's wrong. I think they're grieving, so I can't fault them for it. I can't blame them for it. But I think that there is more to be said about it, that when you're grieving, you can't make the right choices always. And there have been studies made that families of loved ones after the perpetrator had been executed feel absolutely, not just not better, they feel worse because now there are 2 people dead and, they helped with the other one. The first one was just their loved one, and now this person is dead too. And you can't bring them back. It's like, actually, wait, I changed my mind. Can we not execute them? You can't do that once they're dead. You know what I mean? So it's weird. It's very, very strange. The human mind is fascinating to me, absolutely fascinating. So the sentencing for Kohberger is anticipated in late July 2025, pending judicial approval of the plea deal, which there's no reason for it not to be approved. 4 consecutive life sentences plus 10 years for the burglary. Reasonable. The judge noted he had little prior warning of the agreement, having prepared for a trial with thousands of potential jurors. I think one of the reasons why the plea deal went forward now, by the way, this is my own opinion based on my experience as an attorney. Some of you know I am a practicing attorney. I have a thriving practice. 1-844-774-HURT. 1-844-774-HURT. That's our firm. We represent people from all over the country. Personal injury, dog bites, car crashes, truck wrecks, bicycle, pedestrian, cyclist, motorcycle, you name it. We've done them all. Give us a call. I'll be happy to assist. 1-844-774-HURT. The problem with a case like this, folks, is that just like I just said, the judge had such a giant pool of jurors. If they had narrowed it down, if they had spent all this time, energy, and resources, you know what? And the defense and the prosecution were like, we agree, Your Honor, we have an agreement. Could have been like, nope, jury trial is moving forward. I reject the plea deal. Judges can do that. They're like, I have spent the last 5 weeks preparing for a jury trial. We're going to have a jury trial. It's unlikely, but the defense wanted to spare the judge from having to do all of this. So they're like, you know what, judge, forget about it. We're just going to resolve it. Call it a day. The victims' families, they reacted to the plea deal in very mixed reactions. The Gonclave's family, Kaylee's family, particularly her father Steve and sister Aubrey, expressed outrage, calling the deal secretive and cruel for its suddenness. They argued it denied them closure, as Kohberger would still get to speak, form relationships, and engage with the world, while their loved ones were silenced forever. They felt the state had failed them by not consulting them adequately. See, once again, it's retribution. So sure, to an extent, yeah, and you know that some of these Dateline and whoever, they're trying to get an interview with him now as we speak, and they will pay him for it, and they'll pay big bucks for it too. Not like he will be able to use it, but his family will. Mogan's family. Madison's father, Ben Mogan, supported the deal. There you go, some support, viewing it as justice to avoid further torture from a drawn-out trial. He encouraged acts of kindness in Maddie's memory. See? Completely polar opposite reactions. One family is saying, our daughter is gone, so should you be. Why do you get to interact with the world when she doesn't? And another is saying, look, this is good. This is what we want. Chapin's family, Ethan's mother, Stacy Chapin, planned to attend a plea hearing in support of the deal, although she noted its unexpected timing. So kind of a neutral reaction there. Some defense attorneys called the plea deal a victory for Kohberger's team, given the fact that there was a series of unfavorable rulings and the looming risk of the death penalty conviction. When you are faced with the death penalty and you get life imprisonment, I will agree. That is a victory, especially if you know you're 100% going to lose. And it sounds like he was. That's why he admitted guilt, as you just saw in the clip. Prosecutors defended the deal as a pragmatic resolution to secure justice without trial uncertainties. Now, there's some evidence and unresolved questions in the case, even as we sit here today in early July 2025, post-plea pre-sentencing. This case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence, as prosecutors never publicly outlined a motive. Well, I think I have a motive. He was studying criminology, and I think he wanted to commit the perfect crime. He wanted to show up, kill them, leave, never get caught. It took him a few weeks to find him, almost 2 months, as a matter of fact, before he was arrested after the killings. So I think he tried to be a Leopold and Loeb copycat, but I could be wrong. Just my theory. DNA and physical evidence. The knife sheath DNA was pivotal, supported by cell phone data and vehicle footage. Behavioral evidence. Kohberger's internet searches and his master's essay raised questions about his mindset, though the defense argued that these were taken out of context. Witness accounts. The surviving roommate's description of the intruder and the DoorDash driver's claim were significant, though the latter's testimony remained unconfirmed. The unresolved questions include, why did Kohberger target these people? These are autism diagnosis play in his actions or defense? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below as you slide past that subscribe button. If it's not subscribed yet, if it's not hit yet, go ahead and hit it. Could the defense have mounted a viable case at trial, given the rejection of their alternative suspect theory and alibi? And again, I think the alibi was extremely weak, but that's just one lawyer's opinion. Broader impact. The case captivated national attention, spawning true crime documentaries, a forthcoming book by James Patterson, and widespread media coverage. It highlighted challenges in high-profile cases, such as managing publicity, ensuring fair trials, and balancing justice with victims' families' needs. The plea deal, while it resolves the case, left some families feeling justice was incomplete without a trial or the death penalty for Bryan Kohberger. So in conclusion, as of July 2nd, 2025, Bryan Kohberger has pled guilty to the 2022 murders of 4 University of Idaho students, accepting the plea deal for life imprisonment without parole, sparing him the death penalty. The case, marked by delays, media scrutiny, and emotional toll on the victims' families, concluded abruptly before a scheduled August 4th jury trial. Sentencing is expected in a couple of weeks, closing a chapter on a tragedy that shocked Moscow, Idaho, and the nation. However, the plea deal's lack of transparency and the absence of public trial leave lingering tensions, particularly for the Gonkalves family, who sought a different form of justice. And I also noticed some of your tweets as I was reading them on X, because I tweeted a couple times and you guys replied to them. People were saying, why didn't the judge make Bryan Kohberger explain what he did and how he did it? And I answered, it's not his job. As much as we would love for a full and comprehensive report on what exactly was his motive, why did he do it, etc., 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 that is not within the court's purview. The court is there to listen to the plea deal. The court is there to ask whether or not Bryan Kohberger admits to the killings. And once those have check marks, scheduling a sentencing date. And that's it. Was it within the judge's purview to ask these questions? To an extent, yes. But again, don't forget, even during a plea deal, a defendant has their Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate themselves. I know it sounds weird to say, but didn't he just admit guilt by saying, I'm guilty, I killed them? Yes, but nobody can pull their finger and ask, why did you do it? Explain thyself, criminal. I'm telling you, it's coming. We're going to find out in due course. Once NBC, ABC, Dateline, CNN, whoever gets there first, whoever pays the toppest dollar or whatever, there is going to be an interview, a sit-down, one-on-one, just like there was one with Lori Vallow just recently. There was a gentleman who gave her an interview, and she's just a complete nut job. Nobody wants to watch that. I saw the preview, the clip of her and him speaking, and I was like, this is enough for me. There is going to be nothing there. She, in her delusional mind, Lori Vallow, believes that Judgment Day is upon us, and she had to save her children before that happened by killing them and freeing their spirit from their bodies or whatever. I don't remember. It was crazy. But what I do know is that Kohberger is going to get his interview. Just watch. And it's going to be like a straight up, mark my words, I'm predicting it right now. It's going to be like a Ted Bundy interview. It's just going to be a stone cold, remember the Iceman? Let me know in the comments below if you know what I'm talking about, if you remember the Iceman. Iceman, I think, has one of the record breakings. He's like 125 murders or something. He was working for a criminal family before he got arrested. I forget his name. His nickname was the Iceman. I think he's dead now. But if you just listen to it, he talks about murdering. He's like it's like he's buying candy at a candy store. And then I would stab him in the back, and then I shot him in the head, and there was one thing I'll never forget that he said in one of his interviews. He said, you really get to discover a person's character in the moments before they die. They reveal themselves to you, guarding him, and they kind of clash. I remember that scene, if you guys know what I'm talking about, when the Joker asks, do you want to know which one of your friends were cowards? I think Heath Ledger was definitely watching interviews with serial killers, and I think the Iceman popped up in there because we're going to see something similar from Kohberger. To him, the murders were just, his motive was to get away with it, and maybe become the next serial killer, the next John Wayne Gacy, or the next Ted Bundy, or who knows? We will find out soon enough. I am not looking forward to it. It's disgusting and despicable, but it's coming, so I'm not worried. Folks, I wanted to thank you all for watching. I wanted to thank you all for coming. I know it's a very heavy topic, but we had to cover it. We had to talk about it. I have been at the ready with this video for months now, and finally got a chance to release it right when it's all over. So you can't have it all. And until then, folks, don't forget to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel, call us if you need us, 1-844-774-HURT, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.